Hello, welcome to this tutorial, actually my first tutorial, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to create an emoji application system on your web page. You want to use that to make a comment and add emoji images to it. I think this is going to be helpful. So let me show you how it works. So here's my index.php file. When I reload it, this is how it looks. So I can toggle this off and on, and that's my emoji folders. And this is how it works. I can click an image, happy. That's what it says. And when I click comment, boom, it just appears there. So I can say I am I am very touch with you. I'm just joking. I'm not angry with you. I'm just joking. I click comment, boom, it just appears here. You see that? That's how it works. So let's get started immediately. I don't want to waste much time on this tutorial. So this is the folder we are going to be using. Oops, sorry. This folders we are going to be using all this here. So not too much files. Actually, yeah, it's just JavaScript library. So you can download it and or you can link it up. Then yeah, this folder contains all the emoji images. Actually, yeah, 805 images in this folder. I think that's too much for you. Maybe you can just select the ones you want and leave the remaining. Actually, all these emoji images are the one WhatsApp uses. So I downloaded them from a website. I forgot to decide, but you can also download them because I will be putting a link to this tutorial. So now you download everything in this folder like this, so you can also get the images. So this is our index.php, the only file that will be visible to us. These other three pages will be hidden, but they are very important also. And also these three images, so that's what we'll be using, not too much files. So let's get started. Let's go to our index.php. So here is the page, and the first thing I did was link up my JavaScript library over here. And I think this is the only CSS style we are going to be using for this tutorial. Just to style, okay, let me show you. Just to style this error box, you can see it over here. So that's it. That's the styling alone. So then let's get started with the main coding. So the first thing I did was my form tag, my form element, but not the normal form element like the HTML that has the action equals to and the method, sorry, and the method equals to. Nope. But actually, all I just need for this tutorial and for everything is just the form ID. So because we are going to be using JavaScript mainly and just few PHP. So to process the form, we are going to be using JavaScript Ajax method. So the page doesn't reload. It doesn't take us to another page. It just pumps out what we typed in the text area. So that's it. So the next thing is the text area, and probably we are going to have name and the ID. The ID goes for the JavaScript functions and the name goes for the PHP. So both of them are very important. And also you can see this span over here containing the inputs, the submit button, sorry, the submit button. I had to put it in a span for for very useful reason, which I'll explain later in the tutorial. They also have two more divs. These two, you can see I styled this it to be none so it doesn't display, and form ID is form one. You can give it any name you want. I just use a random name, and you can see it contains the image, the progress image. If you see over here, okay, let me empty my database. So just empty start start afresh here. So when I click comment, look below this comment box, you see a a dot image counting, just counting, just counting. So but it counts so quickly because it doesn't take time for the data to send. So once it sends, it stops. So but you look here, at least it's visible, you noticed it. Yeah, that's it. So you saw it. So that's the image. So that's this image. Then what then also this error div, you see, has a class of arrow, which I already styled up here. Yeah, you can see it. So I already styled it up there. Then also it has a form and an idea of form error. So that's what pops out when the comment box and you now click comments. So it pops out and throw you up something wrong. You omitted the comment. So that's it. So this JavaScript code here also is not too relevant, just for toggling this off and on. Maybe you can leave it to display, but I don't choose to toggle it off and on. So that's it. I can see that the image changes when I toggle it. You can see the arrow here changes. So you can see, so the work, that's what this code does. You can see different images I put up there. So and this the tog that you click on and it toggles. So let's go on to this part. So this is the id that contains the emoji images. That is this div all over like this. Oops, all over like this. That's it, that contains the emoji images. And I gave it a class. I don't think it's relevant for the class. I don't think. Nope. And it's also display as none. It toggles. That's when it displays block. So there's a lot of code, because there are a lot of pictures in the emoji, like a lot of emoji images. So I don't want to include them in this index.php. So I added them in an extra file. I included it with this PHP code there. It's not too much. So let's just check out this emoji.php and hear what's how it looks. This is the emoji.php, and the first thing I'm going to be showing you guys just this one. Then I'll pop out the div and you see the images. So first of all, this JavaScript function here is the one that enables the when you click on a emoji, it inserts the text inside the text area. So this is the code responsible, and then this is the code responsible for making this is the code responsible for making the now. Okay, let me say, when I type something inside, and if I click anyone, you just add it um just add it at the front of all these texts that I've written before. So normally, if you don't do that, maybe if when you click a an emoji icon, it just takes away all the text and replaces it with that one you click. So maybe when you click another, the same thing happens again, like I have seen now. So probably that this JavaScript code makes it, you can click and click and it keeps on adding. I can add more and more text to it. So that's the work of the JavaScript code. And this one also makes the cursor, like you can see, the cursor is the cursor is, so when I click any image, you can see that the cursor still appears at the last point. You can see that cursor still appears at the last point. So that's the work of this. So let's pop out our div and check what is within it. So this was within it. So you can at first can see that I called out this div over here with an ID of emoticons. So I selected the div and I selected also the a tag, the a element within the div. So all these a elements within the div, I selected them. So probably I'm telling the JavaScript, I gave it a variable, and I'm selecting the attributes within the a tag, the a element. I'm selecting the attribute of title. You can see it. I'm selecting the attribute here of title. Then into I'm inserting this title. When clicked, I'm inserting this title. You can see the on when clicked, then it runs this function. So I'm inserting this value, this attribute tied to the value into the id cut comment. Like back in our php, you can see that I gave the text area id cut comment. So when the title is being clicked, when the link is being clicked, the value of the title, like you can see the title attribute. So all these values here, that's what is being inserted. All these values over here, that's what is being inserted into the text area. So that's it. So I think that's it for this page. I'm so fast. I just want to round up this tutorial so quickly. I don't want it to take time. So what next again we'll be dealing with is the form handling. So this all about the form submission. All this code here is just about form submission. So you can see, remember I gave my form an idea of my form. You can see it over here, still is highlighted because I highlighted this one. So you can see my form. So when my form is being submitted, let it runs all this query here. So the first thing I want to do is that when it's being submitted, I don't want the page to reload. So that's the function of this little code here. I don't want the page to reload. That's the main thing I want. So if you watch, there's no url above in front of this. You can see no url, just stops at the slash. So when I click comment, nothing still happens, you see. So even when I type something, a random word, and I click comment, it doesn't reload. You can see it doesn't reload and nothing happens. But when I take out the little code and reload the page, you see when I click comment, you see that the page reloads here. You see here also reloads, and you see query added to the URL. Like you can see, poof, you see that, and page reloads. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why we added this little code to read. So let's refresh the page so I don't get confused later on. Yeah. So back to our index. So the next thing again I want to run is if the text area is empty. If the text area is empty, you can see with the id of comment, if the value is equals to nothing, then run this little code. First of all, I want the focus, the sorry, I want the cursor on the text area, and then I want the error div, that I created and displayed as none over here. You can see it. I want it to display block and pop out. So this is it. So you can see now the cursor is not in the text area, but when I click submit, when it's empty, the cursor goes into the text area and pops out the error. You can see, you see that. Oops, I didn't. Oh, so sorry, I've not saved it. So yeah, so you can see that you saw that the cursor went into the text area and also popped out the div. So the form is not going to submit. So else, if it's not empty, then that's when it's going to run the code and submit the form. So the first thing we do is that we run this little code here, this three important code. So we are using the method of get. Remember, in our form element, we didn't add any action or method attributes. So that's running here. So the method that I'm using here is get. Maybe you can use the post. I guess it's going to work, I guess, but I've not tried it out. But I'm using the get and it's working for me. So the URL, actually the action of the form element, is going to flash.php. So the data will be sent to this page. Data will be sent to this page and it will be processed, but it's not going to load. It's not going to take us to the page. It's just going to send. It will prevent the page from, this code here will prevent the page from loading, but it will send the data to this page and it will load behind. It will process the data behind the scene, but it's not going to load the page. And this data, this does sterilize. This is the data within the form tag called id and called my form. So all the um all the data within that form runs in this small code. So this code sterilize the data. Then now if oops. So before the code sends, before when I click the submit button, before it's successful, I want it to run all this code that is highlighted here. So the first thing I want to do is to display this form error. I want to display the div as none. You can see here none. But whether it displays as block or not, it just displays as none. So it disappears. So and the next thing again I want to do, I want to display the form one, the div with the form one ID to display as block. That's the div that contains the progress image that counts that I showed you earlier on. So this is it over here. As you can see, it's highlighted. So it's placed as blocks, and that's when the image counts. Then also very important, I want the input button to be disabled. So I told you earlier on that I created a span with a form span. You can see it over there also highlighted, which the submit button is within it. So I want to change the HTML code within that span element. I want to change it to this and disable the button so a user can't post a comment twice. Very important. So and when it's been successful, when the form has been successfully submitted, the first thing I want to do, I want to empty the text area. You can see the id comment, the value will be equals to not. So first thing I want to do is empty the text area. Then the next thing I want to do is to display that image div to display as none, so it goes away. So and also again very importantly, we have to enable the submit button once more again. So I take away the disable from here, so you can see it's no, so it becomes enable once more. So you can type again and send another one. So that's it. I'm too fast. I just want to rush up with this tutorial, and then we are almost done. Then just this little code also here for the index.php. So actually you can see this div over here, this div sorry, this div over here. So oh yeah, this div highlighted, you can see it's an idea of comment show, the little styling. I can see that it's nothing inside the div, but actually that's the div that displays all these over here, and more when you keep adding. That's the div, but probably there is nothing inside here. But I use this little javascript code in here to insert what we just typed into it. So actually it's supposed to display on show it.php, but I don't want this show it.php to display. So I don't want to get a link. I want it to display on the same page, which is very healthy and helpful. So I'll I'll force this show it.php. I'll force it to load every 0.5 seconds. When I change this to 1000, this is 1 second. So I just want it to display every half second. So I'll force this show it.php to display every 5 seconds within this id. You can see it. So it displays within this id it forces this page to reload every 5 seconds and displays content within this id. So I think for the final part, let's show up this show it.php. I will see what is done. So this show it.php, the most important thing here is to wrap your PHP coding in this. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's go through to the data sending that insert it to the database. Not of what if you are familiar with PHP, just a little this it. First thing, let's your PHP, your MySQL database. Then also you assign the name comments as I told you earlier on. I give my text area a name just for the PHP, which is comment. So I assign a variable to it, and you can see I use the get method because I'm using the get method also over this place. Oops. I'm using get method over here. So oh my god, using get method over here. Sorry. So that's why I'm using get method. I don't think this one is relevant because I've already handled this with the JavaScript. So I don't think you can send empty comments to this page. But let's just leave it. So this is the insertion into the database. If you're not familiar with PHP, just copy the code and paste it, and but I guess you're familiar with PHP. But if you're not, maybe you should watch other tutorials on MySQL database, insertion and stuff like that, and you get it too. So the first thing also is to create a div element and wrap your PHP code in within it. Probably you can put this div somewhere here, yeah, somewhere here. But the most important thing is that this while loop over here must run within this div with the ID of emoji. You can name it whatever you want. So that's the most important thing. So the first thing you need to do is connect to your database first. After connecting to the database, then you out the table which the emojis and the comments were being inserted, and you echo out. Let me show you my database. So this is it here. So how do you want this thing? So this is the and this is how it displays in the database. You can see it doesn't display the image, it just displays the text which was inserted, and it echoes it out. You can see we have only two here, which is this two. But you can see here it displays the image instead of the text, which is here over the database. So that's how it works. So when it's being echoed out, it's echoed out each loop in a paragraph tag. So now this is the main code. This is the main code that translates, that replaces the text, like that replaces this text to this image. So it thought instead of showing up the text, it shows up the image. So let me show you an example. Now if I take out this, you can see if I take out this and save it, you see that poops, it just shows us what is inserted into the database. You can see that. But this code over here, there is a lot and lot, but it depends on how many images you have. If you have just one, then you just have a line of code, not too complicated like that. If you have only one image, then I think you have to run only one line of code like this. If you have two, then maybe run two, three, and four, and so on and so forth. But I have up to 70 something. That's how I run all this lot of code. So let's just explain the code a little. So you can see now I'm calling out this div with an ID of emoji can stay over here, and this one also. So I'm calling that. But if you decide to use something like the or some maybe something like div, or you'll be having a problem, because when you use body or use div, you remember very well that all this code, all these contents here are also inside the body content or inside the div content. So probably it affects the all these ones also, so it affects them, so it won't work well. So you have to display it a, in a given div id, which is emoji. So you can see I selected the id called emoji, and I selected the htmls within the div id. Then I have to replace anything that looks like this within the div with a of emoji. I'll replace it with this image. So that's how it works. Probably it won't display this text again, you just display this image over here. So you can see this for happy, and this for glad, this for joy, this, and so on and so forth, depending on how many images you are using. So that's it. So you can see our code is working. So I'll take up how many I want randomly. Just click poop poop, oops, poop poop, and when I click comment, poop. Oops, okay, sorry. I haven't saved it. Save and poops. Gerard, magic. Okay, so I think that's the end of the tutorial. But I'm going to paste a link down the video so you can download this folder as a whole, and also export my database and include it to the file so you can download it and you won't have a lot of stress. But remember to comment and remember to share. Also remember